What's going on, guys? So I want to talk a bit more about the Immortal Hulk. The new series is out, so be sure to cop that. And what I'm going to start doing, since a lot of you have been asking, I'm going to start putting links in the description so you guys know where to find some of the newer issues. And I really want to help you guys out with that because the spills really don't give the page by page rundown for obvious reasons. And because so many of you guys are hitting me up like, where do I get this issue, where do I get that, I want to start putting some more of that info in the description so you can go back for a reference. And along with that, I'll probably just do a video like on the best deals for buying comics. And that way you guys can dig deeper into a lot of the references I use, because one, buying the comic is the only way to get the full version of the comic, and two, all of my videos are really just like a quilt of different issues stitched together to express my interpretation of a comic over time. So be sure to keep an eye out for that info right below the like button. But getting into the Immortal Hulk, we've been getting prepped for this series for some time now. And most of that is because of the events that took place in Avengers No Surrender, when the original Grandmaster, who we were introduced to as the Challenger, returned challenging Andui so they can prove who was the true Grandmaster. And through that challenge, they both picked their champions, and the original Grandmaster chose the Hulk late in the game as like a surprise contender. And it was a really clever move because the Hulk, he was dead at the time. And as you guys know, he does that from time to time. That part isn't new. But what was very unique this time around is that when the Hulk came back, he was a lot more intelligent than what they were used to. And initially he was going along with the Grandmaster's plan, so a lot of people didn't know whether he was being mind controlled by the Challenger or if he was just a puppet within this game. But eventually we find out that the Hulk is fully coherent and he has his own agenda, which is mainly coming from a place of him being tired of being used and him coming to a place of where he could care more or less about the safety of others or even trying to save the world. And as you guys know, we've seen an intelligent Hulk before. And back in my 30 plus Hulks video, we talked about a few in conjunction with the many other Hulks, like your Professor Hulk or your Doc Green. And the Doc Green that we covered, we elaborated on a bit more later on, with him threatening Banner and rigging explosives in his lab. And we talked more about him in the 616 versus 1610 Hulk video. But as far as giving you guys an understanding of the mind state of the Immortal Hulk, he's probably the closest thing we've seen in recent years. Because with the Immortal Hulk, we're still being teased with the idea of, is this guy still a hero? Is he a villain? And Al Ewing, who's writing the Immortal Hulk series and co-wrote for Avengers No Surrender, he's intentionally leaving us in the dark without a definitive answer going either way. But with those things in mind, Immortal Hulk issue number 1 starts off with a guy named Thomas Edward Hill. And Thomas is really this guy who's down on his luck. He owes a ton of money to loan sharks. He doesn't really know how he's gonna pay it back, so he decides to try and rob a gas station. And he has absolutely no experience doing this, so he's like sweating bullets. But the interesting Easter egg about this is that this gas station isn't just any gas station. It's a Roxxon company gas station. And at the moment, it doesn't seem like anything significant, and we've seen the Roxxon Corporation mentioned in a number of issues in the past having to do with the Hulk, but it hasn't been till recently where the more significant mentions have appeared in the Weapon H series. Because as of right now, the Roxxon Corporation, which is really a two-sided coin, but this corporation's main focus has been tracking down Weapon H. And the CEO of Roxxon Corp, Dario Agger, he's a completely different beast in his own right. And as CEO of this corporation, he's very connected to everything that happens. And I say that because if anything unusual were to happen at this gas station, there is no doubt that the information will make its way back to him. Mainly because he has a number of drones and spies at his disposal in order to guarantee that he's as informed as possible. And trust me, as crazy as it gets, there's always like one spy left or one thing that gets information back to him. Whether it's a camera, one person crawling out from under the wreckage, it gets back to him. And so as far as Thomas E. Hill, when he makes his attempt to rob this gas station, and like I said, he is super nervous and he doesn't know how to handle a firearm, so he's resting his finger on the trigger, he's shaking, and out of a state of panic, he ends up shooting 4 people in this robbery, one of which happened to be Bruce Banner. And so as of this point, we really don't know the time gap between when we last seen him in Avengers No Surrender and when we see him here, possibly just passing through, laying low. But just before he's shot, we get a look at a magazine that he was looking at on the shelf that had mentioned recent sightings of the Hulk, but also mentioning do the Avengers know? And this tells us a couple things. One, it gives us a bit of the timeline, letting us know this is after No Surrender and the Earth has been returned to its original place. And two, it also tells us that Banner has made no attempt to get back to the Avengers since we we see the Challenger knock him through that portal, which as it turns out seems to have brought him right back to Earth, like he just went through one and just came out the other one on the other side. But through the course of No Surrender, we do know that he made his way back to Earth, because after the Challenger was defeated, he had a brief sit down with Hawkeye, who Banner had asked to meet him once again away from the other Avengers. And even though this meeting was very brief, mainly because Banner started to get frustrated because his plan for Hawkeye to shoot the Hulk and kill him didn't work, and that's the main reason why their sit down was cut short. But the three reasons why this conversation was important for us to see back in No Surrender was: 1, to show us that Banner had made it back to Earth; 2, remind us of Hawkeye's vision of the future where he saw the Hulk had pretty much taken out everybody that he cared for; but 3rd, and really what will be the ongoing theme for the Immortal Hulk series, is the last thing that Clint said before Banner walked out, and that was when Clint told Banner that he had changed everything. And when Clint said that, he was referring to Banner's connection with Tony's armor, Banner's connection with the evil Captain America and Secret Empire, and because of Banner coming back, a number of things from Clint's vision had changed. And because of those things changing from the vision, Clint was trying to tell Banner, like, you are the difference. This vision that I had, it doesn't have to come true. Like, you are a good man down inside, and don't ever forget that. And that's really the running theme of the Immortal Hulk. And much like how the issue starts off with a quote from Carl Gustav Jung, who's also the Swiss psychologist who founded analytical psychology, we start off from a quote from him. It says, "Man is on the whole less good than he imagines himself or wants to be." And that's something you've got to keep in mind throughout this series, because when Banner's body's in the morgue, it's pretty much a John Doe at this point. They don't know that it's Banner, and they don't really figure that out till after he hulks out and chases down the guy who did this. And as it turns out, he first follows him back to like this biker gang. Like, they're the loan sharks who loaned him money. They loaned Thomas the money that he couldn't pay back, knowing good and well that he wouldn't be able to pay it back. And they really just suckered him into this loop of paying them back over and over again in a cycle where his debt would never be paid in full. But what's crazy is the way that the Hulk found him. And he did that by tracking down his scent of lying. And this points out another thing, because we've known the Hulk to have senses that were just insane. But for him to tactically use them, especially a sense of smell, like that's usually a Logan thing. But with him doing that, it shows us even more how much this guy is in control. And it's pretty creepy. But that's the difference we're gonna be getting with the Immortal Hulk. That's not quite like your Doc Samson or even like your Maestro. Because with the Immortal Hulk, Al Ewing is going for more of a horror tone. And I'm gonna tell you right now, like, if turning around and seeing this, like, he didn't even hear him lead the rest of that gang and come to him. Like, he just turned around and this monster was there. And I gotta tell you, man, Joe Bennett, the way he draws the Hulk's eyes in this series, they express so much, but they're menacing at the same time. But a crucial thing to notice at this point is when the Hulk catches up with Thomas, he's not just here to eat him because he shot him, and I'm pretty sure that's what Thomas is thinking. But since given the title Immortal Hulk, like, it hasn't been up until now that we've seen this Hulk really care about anything. But it's here that we find out from the 4 people that Thomas shot at that gas station, 1 was a 12-year-old girl, and the Hulk came all this way to tell Thomas her name. And he didn't have to do that. Like, he could have just ran through, killed all these guys, and just kept it moving. But as it turns out, the Hulk, he didn't kill anybody from that gang. And as far as Thomas, he understood that Thomas felt like he had a sense of power going into that gas station with that gun, causing 3 people, 3 out of 4, to lose their lives. So the Hulk pretty much just gave him an example of what real power is without the use of a gun, without anybody getting killed too. And with that said, the Hulk really let him off pretty easy by breaking nearly every bone in his body. And if I'm not mistaken, it's like 206. I think he left him like 2. But because he had the gun on him that he used at the gas station, the police tied him to the robbery, and they also had one less problem with that gang, the Dogs of Hell, because up until this point, they couldn't get enough evidence to move on the gang. But at this point, the police are saying that they have the fear of God in them, and every last one of them is just talking. And I'm pretty sure that, in conjunction with the detectives who know that this was the work of the Hulk, but I'm pretty sure because this entire incident started at a Roxxon gas station, that it'll eventually make its way to Dario Agger. But I'm curious to know what you guys think as far as the Hulk. Do you think he's a hero? Do you think he's becoming a villain? And I will say, in No Surrender, he did seem more of the villain type, because he was pretty much smashing all the Avengers and the villains. Nobody was safe, at least until he got punched out the atmosphere. But with us seeing this different Hulk that is much more sinister and calculating, like, which way do you guys think this is gonna go? Because at this point, it almost seems as if Banner is pretty much just giving up, and much of that has to do with the Hulk coming back from the dead smarter and stronger every time. But let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if you learned something new, and we'll do it again on the next time. Alright, later.